Hello and welcome back for the third and final video for the swirly bottom bag. This is the bag that we've made over the last two videos. We started with our swirly bottom, and then that was in video 1, and then in video 2 we did the sides all the way up to the top section here. Today we are going to, or I should say now, we are going to make the cord that is going to weave in and out of this section here, the beading section here, and it is kind of a braided cord. So I made one ahead of time so that we could show you what it's going to look like when it's completed. I really like this cord because it's very strong and doesn't have a lot of stretch to it, so you're not going to have it stretching out as you're using it, because this is both the handle and the tie for the bag itself. And I'll show you what I mean by that, because we're going to make 2 of them, so they're going to be able to be used like that, and then also open. And then when it's like this, you get to use them as handles for holding the bag. Now let's talk about what you're going to need to make this cording. You're going to need a very little bit of number 4 worsted weight yarn. I'm continuing with the cotton that I've been using for the bag itself, and so that it all coordinates and it's the same material. It doesn't matter if you use regular acrylic or if you use cotton. It's all going to work up the same, and it's going to have the same strength on it. So I want to point out a couple of things on this cording before we get started. The way that I'm going to be counting and keeping track of how long I want my piece to be made is going to be based on what I'm calling bars. These bars right here are what I'm going to be counting. And I'll show you as we go along how those are being made. But this is what I'm using to determine the length of my final cord. And for this medium one, we're going to be making 80 bars. So what I use is a couple of stitch markers to count every 20 bars so that I can keep track of how far along I've made it. All right, I'm just going to set those aside. Of course, you're going to need scissors because you've got to cut your yarn. I am using a number 7, 4.5 millimeter hook today, and obviously number 4 worsted weight yarn. All right, with a loop on my hook, we are going to just chain 3. This is one of the easiest things that you're ever going to make, and it is a little bit addicting when you get going. You just want to keep going, kind of like when you learned how to chain when you were learning how to crochet, and you just wanted to chain and chain and chain. So in the second loop from the hook, put a single, and then into that last open chain, put a single. Now here's the interesting part. We're not going to chain 1. All we're going to do is turn. So as we're looking at our single crochet, this is how our single crochet is made up. This is the bar across the back of the single crochet here, this guy right here. And then this would be like the back loop of your single crochet if you look at it from the top, okay? So in that back loop and the bar across the back of the single crochet, we are going to use those as though it is a stitch, and we're going to put a single crochet into it like so. Now here's the really fun part. You're not going to do any chaining, you're just going to do turning, and then these little loops that were created when we turned and didn't chain before, that's all we're going to work into, is just those 2 outer loops on the side of the stitch. So then you turn, and there they are again. So we're going to go ahead and put a single crochet in there. Just keep turning and working into those side loops. Now here, I'm going to show you where your bars are going to start showing up. Your bars start showing up even down here. So I typically flip this over and start with this guy to the left, because the bar just is a little bit more easily seen for me. So this is going to be my first bar, second, third. So just pay attention to that And as you're going along, you could put a stitch marker every 10th bar. You could, but just decide which side of the cord you're going to use to mark, and just be consistent with that. And this just is so easy. Once you get going, it's super fast. I actually just adore this cording. I don't know where it's been all my life, but I just discovered it recently. All right, so going back over here, see how they just show up as you go. I think it has to do with the turning of the stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm just going to put a stitch marker in there just so that you get an idea of what that looks like. So I just mark every 20 stitches as I'm going along, and that way I know when I hit 80. So I'm going to actually go ahead and do that. I'm going to put all 80 of my bars on here, and then when I'm come back, we're going to show you how to finish it off, and then we're going to weave it in and out of our beading on our bag, and I'll show you how to sew the ends together so that you can finish off your bag. All right, I have reached my 80 bars, but I did want to show you that when I'm counting my bars, I only do it on the one side. I don't do it on both sides, because if you count both sides, you're going to end up with 80 bars and you're only going to have a piece of rope this long. So you want to make sure that you count one side. So every 20 stitches or every 20 bars, I created a reminder. Now I'm on the last one. I have 20 bars here. The way that I'm going to finish this off is to go into the first, or the loops that we've been going into, and I'm just going to pull right through, and it creates kind of a flat edge, and I'm going to cut, leaving a long end because we're going to use that to sew our ends together. But see how that flattens that right off when you just slip stitch it. All right, grab your bag, and we're going to weave in our cords. I have a whole system for doing this so that I know where I want my cords or my handles to come out. So, because this is where we did all of the joining, I consider this the back of the bag, and then this is the front of the bag. So I actually start over on the side so that my handles are going to end up on the sides. And that way, when I sew this end together, it's actually going to be tucked into the other side, and it won't pop out, because while you can't really see it necessarily, I'm picky like that. So all you do is you just weave it in and out like you normally would when you're threading something through, like so, just in and out. The one thing you're going to want to be careful of as you're going along is that this doesn't twist. And then when we get to the other side and we are ready to sew our ends together, we'll go over this and make sure that all of this is straight so that we don't have a twisted handle. But go ahead and finish weaving this in and out. I'll be right back so we can sew our ends together. Okay, so now before I sew these ends together over here, I'm just going to go through and make sure that the whole thing is straight all the way through. And so when you're looking at this, I'm going to be sewing these ends together. So this is actually the side that's going to pull out and be the handle. When you get to this side, you're going to actually have one left in between. You should have that. Go ahead and tuck in this end. It doesn't have to be a real crazy tuck in. You don't have to go back and forth 5 times. You just want to get that yarn in there and cut your end, because we are going to use this long end to sew our tips together. Now here's how I do this. By habit, I always start with this particular part on the right hand side, but I'm right-handed, you might be left-handed, so just use the opposite, whatever's comfortable for you. And I'm kind of matching the tips together like this. So I go in this stitch, and now I'm going to go straight into this one. I'm kind of doing a modified mattress stitch, and if you've ever done a mattress stitch, you're actually going into the side as opposed to over the top. I don't care for the bulkiness of a whip stitch, So that's why I do kind of this modified mattress stitch, and I just lost my needle. And so when I go back in, I'm just going to do the same thing going back in over here. And then I'm going to pull it tight like so. And then just do that until you're satisfied with the strength of your stitching. If you're worried that it's going to come apart, throw in a couple extra stitches. If you really want to be precise about how straight these edges are together, just pay real close attention. Now, the reason why I do this so that this is always hidden is I don't like having ugly ends out, and I view this as ugly. Not everybody's as picky as me. If you like it, by all means, leave it out there. But I have a tendency to be really picky about how my stuff finishes off. So I'm going to tuck it in. Call me snobby. It's okay. And then I'm going to weave back this way. And that is going to be the end of that. Now I'm going to do that with the second one, but I just want to show you what I mean by this is going to tuck in here. I'm going to pull this now in this direction. So when I am using my bag, this is the handle part that's going to be sticking out. So this is forever going to be tucked inside here. And when I weave this guy in and out, I'm going to start with my end on the opposite direction so that I'm sewing the end over here. And I've got a pretty end over here. All right. So I'm going to weave this in and out. I'll be right back. We'll do the second one together. And I just realized I should probably make a note for you. Don't try to weave in and out differently. Go the same route that you took for the first one, using the same loops, going under and over, because it needs to pull nice and evenly in those same spaces. All right, same as the first time, we're going to make sure that all of this is straight and see how I've got it kind of overlapped here. I want to make sure that each of my handles are in their own lane. And I got this pretty twisted as I was going through here, so I want to make sure that it's all going the same direction, so when I sew it together, it is not twisting on me. Alrighty, there we go. Okay, so everybody's straight. And like I said, I brought this out where the end is on this side so that when I pull the drawstring opposite directions, everything is hidden. And I'm going to sew this end together, same way I did the first one. Just kind of going through straight on. And then going back. As you can see, I'm kind of going down maybe an extra bar or so and pulling it through. All right, that feels nice and tight. So weave up and weave back. Go ahead and cut that. And here we go. This is the final test. Now, you're grabbing onto this top one, and I'm dragging this to make sure that my ugly spot right there gets tucked inside. And there we go. We've got us a bag. Here's your handles. Everything closes up, nicely contained, and you've got a nice, strong little bag. All right, I'm going to quick show you how to do the flower accent on here, and then we'll be done. Okay, for your flower, you're going to need small amounts of your number 4 worsted weight. I'm going to use colors that I've already used for my bag. And you're going to need your number 7 4.5 millimeter hook and your needle and your scissors. But I'm going to start with magic circle again and chain 1, and we're going to put 10 single crochets into this circle. 3, 4, 7, and 10. All right, pull that bad boy shut. We're going to slip stitch to the first single crochet, and we're going to go ahead and cut off. Now, go ahead and pull that circle so it's fairly tight, like so. And then I'm going to go real quickly here. I'm going to tuck in these ends so that they don't get in our way. All right, I've woven in my ends, and we're going to only be working in the 10 single crochets. So this join right here, try not to use it as a stitch as you're going along, because we're only going to have 5 petals on this flower. All right, so any one of these single crochets, go ahead and put your hook in there, and we are going to pull up and chain 2. That is going to count as a half double crochet. And then in this same stitch, we are going to double, and we're going to treble. Now into the next stitch, we are going to do a treble, a half, and a chain 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this guy here, right next to it, I did that just because I wanted to make sure that I was putting this in the correct stitch. So treble and double and chain 2. Now we're going to slip stitch into that same stitch that we just put. Alrighty, our first petal of our flower has been made. We're going to repeat that around. Now go into the next stitch, which, skipping over that join space, is going to be right here. I pulled that maybe a little snug. Alrighty, and now, so we slip stitched 1 over. Now we're going to chain 2. We're going to put a double and a treble. And now into the next one, put a treble and a double, chain 2, and slip stitch. Now slip stitch into the next one. And chain 2, double, treble, treble in the next, in that same space, double, chain 2, and slip stitch. All right, go ahead and do that 2 more times and finish off with your 5 petals, and I'll be right back. All right, final slip stitch has been done. Now what I'm going to do to finish this off is I'm going to go back into the very first one that I did, and I'm going to slip stitch into that. I'm going to cut, leaving a long end for attaching this to my bag, and go ahead and clean up this backside and tuck this in real quick. Okay, grab your bag, and we're going to quick stitch this onto the front of our bag. I try to make sure that my stitches match up with the direction of the stitches of my petals, so that they are just kind of hidden in there and it doesn't stick out. So it's just a straight stitch. I don't go real crazy on this because they usually are pretty sturdily put on. I try to put like 2 stitches per petal. And I just go into that space where you can make as many, or as you can just have the one. You can have 3 or 4. You can decorate the whole bag in flowers if you want. I just wanted a cute little accent. Okay. All right, well, we're at the end where my yarn's not going to hold out anymore. So this is my stitching on the back side. I'm just going to weave it this way, and then I'm going to catch a loop as I'm coming back. And weave it back this way. Cut my end. And we are done. Good job, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please make sure that you share your pictures with me. Tag me so I can see what you've done. And I will talk with you on the next tutorial.